Hello, everyone. Good morning and welcome. I'm Jamie Sefton, and this is the GamesIndustry.biz Investment Summit online, kindly sponsored by Xsola, Renaissance PR, and Sony PlayStation. Welcome back. This is our second online investment summit, and we're really excited to be back again, this time for a two-day global event that will hopefully mean even more opportunities for developers from around the world to meet with publishers and investors, so they can pitch their projects online and get their games funded. That's what it's all about. As well as the meetings today, over 2 days via Meet to Match, there's a full conference program with some really great industry guests for talks and panels from the likes of Sega, Double Loop, Velan Ventures, Frontier, Wings, Kowloon Knights and Obsidian, and many more. And all the talks will be hosted on YouTube immediately afterwards. For all our live sessions, you can also ask questions via YouTube chat. And in addition, we have some fun and casual events with the GamesIndustry.quiz today and the Games Industry Gathering tomorrow, which is also a fantastic industry networking event on Zoom. We also have 2 exclusive live Q&A roundtable sessions with Valve and Sheridan's solicitors happening later today, just for developer ticket holders. There's still time to sign up for those private meetups later today, so do check the Meet to Match schedule for info on how to do that. For all the conference session details and links, head to our event site, which is live.gamesindustry.biz. Hopefully, the investment summit today will provide you with some insights, information, industry contacts, useful advice, business knowledge, and also investment for your company and your games. So, on to the first session today, and that features Frank Sagnier, CEO of Codemasters, and he'll be discussing the company's acquisition strategy, esports funding, and more with the GamesIndustry.biz head of games B2B, Chris String. So over to you, Chris.
Thank you, Jamie. My name is Chris, and I'm delighted to host this pre-recorded session. At our last investment summit in May, we had some of the biggest names in UK games development join us, including David Braben from Frontier and Debbie Bestwick from Team 17. I'm delighted to say we have another one with us today in the form of Codemasters, the world-famous racing game studio. It went public in 2018 and has been busy investing in esports, investing in licenses, and even buying game developers, namely Project Cars creators, Slightly Mad Studios. It's also speeding into the next generation with one of the first big racing games on Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 in the form of Dirt 5. So there's lots to talk about. So I'm delighted to introduce the CEO of Codemasters, Frank Sagnier. Did I get that right, Frank? Is that right, Frank Sagnier?
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris. I'm honored to be on the show.
It's good. Well, it's been we should be doing this on stage normally, but it's been a difficult year, and I can only imagine how difficult it has been to manage when you've got a team the size that you've got. And not only that, since the pandemic really sort of took hold and lockdown happened, you've launched a new F1 game, you've announced your next gen racer Dirt 5 that's out soon. Your new acquisition Slightly Mad released 2 games last month. How has it been for you?
Overall, I think we've got out of it pretty well, and more importantly, very quickly. We were able to shut down our offices, and we've got 3, almost actually 4 in the UK, and we've got some in Kuala Lumpur and India. We shut down ahead of the government's official lockdown. So we're early. There's been some disruption, but it's been very minimal, thanks to a great team effort. We've had, since the beginning of lockdown now, like 5-6 months ago, I can't count anymore, regular check-ins, surveys to George how our staff were feeling. We've offered support, both physical, mental. We've done everything we could. So we've coped well. As you said, we've launched a number of games, and it hasn't been a massive issue. We probably, like the rest of the game industry, fairly lucky for that. But despite coping well, I think we'll all be very happy to return to a more social environment, and we're about to reopen our offices and return gradually and safely. So we're currently in the first phase of returning in the next week, and hopefully we'll all be back at work as soon as we can.
Oh, great. Is everyone returning at once, or is it going to be like a phased approach?
phased. We'll probably have about 20% returning, and these are the ones who really want to return or need to return. So the doors are now open. It's all safe. It's all according to the guidelines. And then based on how it goes, we'll start bringing more and more people. So we don't want to impose rules until we know how it's going to pan out. But the idea is to try and return, get the culture back, be working together, and be in a social environment that we all miss.
Mm. Oh, well, I'm glad to hear it. Now, as a company, you went public, I think, in 2018. How has that changed things for you?
It's changed quite a lot, but I would have to say mostly for the better. Being accountable to the city and the investors forces us to have a clear strategy and focus on delivering expected results. You need to find the right balance, of course, between short-term profit and long-term shareholder value. That's always the problem when you're a public company. But, also being public allows you to access funding, which we benefited from for the acquisition of Slightly Mad Studios. So it is time consuming. There's no question about it. Mm. You feel like you're on a treadmill. Every time you do well, you need to do better the next time. But it keeps your focus, and overall, it's been a very positive experience for Codemasters.
Yeah, I was going to say that you mentioned it there, that it allowed you to acquire Slightly Mad. What made that studio an attractive acquisition for you? What was it that made you go, right, we've got to get these guys?
Well, it was interesting because it's pretty obvious. They're a AAA, they're a proven AAA racing developer. They've been developing racing games for years. They've got amazing talent and tech. We have a shared passion and a vision to make the best possible racing game. And when we first met these guys, it was like we'd known each other forever. It was a natural fit. We had the same problems, the same joys. And of course, they had the mighty Project Cars franchise, which we're very keen on to put our hands on. So for us, it was like Slightly Mad has been a competitor for many years, and suddenly they became our greatest ally. And we could see that getting together would be 1 + 1 = 3. And that's what attracted us.
Yeah, well, they are obviously a very well, Project Cars 3 just came out and it got a fantastic reviews. Is that sort of when you look for acquiring generally? Obviously, you think Slightly Mad, I think Codemasters, they're obvious. They seem like an obvious fit. But generally speaking, what do you look for when you're acquiring, assuming that that's something that you look at regularly?
So, given that our strategy is very clear and hasn't changed for the last few years, which is we want to position ourselves as the leader in the racing category, we are always looking for ways to enhance that leadership. And it's a mix of talent, knowledge, IP, and importantly as well, the right cultural fit. Sometimes companies are great, but if they don't fit culturally, it could be an issue. So we're lucky with Slightly Mad because they kind of ticked all the boxes. Going forward, if there are more acquisitions to be had, we're not looking for everything, but it has to be at least a cultural fit and a way to enhance our leadership position. So let me be clear, we're looking for racing games. We're not going to be looking for FPS at this point.
No, but then you do have a lot of racing games IP. You've got a lot of racing game studios that are making it. You've got F1, you've got your licensed ones, and you've also got you got Dirt and Grid and now Project Cars and all that kind of thing. This isn't a question I was planning to ask you really, but it surprises me that you're so interested in sort of adding more racing IP, because I look at what you've got and I'm not entirely sure how many more racing games you can possibly release.
It's a good question, and we may not build more IP, but we may use resources to make our existing IP bigger. So it's not always about creating more and more games. It's more importantly about trying to make the best game possible on every time we make a game. And it might mean spending way more on existing game to make them even better and bigger and make sure our players are happy with it. So having more resources is helping us do that. Of course, IP, when we acquire a slightly mad studio, but when it's an IP like Project Cars, it's hard to say no.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, obviously, one of your big IPs, it's not yours, is the F1 license. You've had that relationship with Formula One for years. I remember when you got it last time, and you've just extended that partnership. And actually, you've now just signed the next big racing license in WRC. I'm familiar with that. I went to a WRC event in Spain once. But how successful have these licenses proven to you?
Very successful. Certainly F1. I can't tell you about WRC yet because we haven't launched it, but certainly F1 has been a flagship title for us. As you said, we've had it since 2009. So it's a long time. And the title has been going from strength to strength. We have a great relationship with FOM. Liberty Media came in a few years ago, and that relationship only got better. We both we both completely align. Our objective is to make sure the sport is as big as possible, because if the sport is as big as possible, so is the game. So being aligned with the owners of the sport is great. And I think what we've been able to do that was very successful is, while we're keeping our core loyal fans as happy as possible by bringing them the features they all want, we also managed to expand our audience, and we've been able to achieve a great success in that area. Consumers are very, very savvy, and they keep us on our toes. There's a number, they're our number one priority. We listen to them. And what we try and do is every year make the game better and better and better. And what we've seen is, in the last 5 years, the game is almost 3 times as big as it used to be 6 years ago. And that's a testament to a great team, to us listening to consumers, and also with the number of data we have now available to us, we're able to listen to consumer earlier and get to build what it is they want. You're right, we've signed recently WRC, and we believe WRC is a great championship as well. It'll be starting, the first game will be in 2023. And what we hope to do with this, exactly what we've done with Formula One, is build a roadmap over a number of years and get the game to improve year on year to a level where consumers who love the game buy it every year, and more consumers come in.
Well, iterative franchises are really, where you do another one every year, they're quite, I mean, this wasn't a question I was planning to ask you, but is it hard to keep the team motivated when they're basically working on they might have an aim like 3 games in the future, and they're having to hit, I guess that's the journey that you go on with those sort of games. You imagine what you want to do, and then you take a step and a step and a step with each new game. Is that hard to keep motivated, or is it very different to perhaps how the Dirt team operate? Or
so it is less hard when you get 90% rating. That it's a really good start, because you keep on trying to, if not to be the best, remain the best. It's nice to see that Formula One 2020 is the highest rated game on Xbox of the year of all games, which is super exciting. But what we've done 2 years ago now, 2 years ago, which has transformed our development of F1, is we've now got 2 teams. So what you have is a team that works 2 years ahead of a launch. It's a lead team or core team or whatever you call it, of about 35 people who design the game 2 years ahead. And then there's a swap. So in fact, while one team's working on producing the existing game, there's a team working on the next one, and that variety and having 2 teams has enabled us to bring a lot more in each game. This is why each game has so much more of an improvement to the year before, because now they've had 2 years behind them, and it allows variety for our developers who don't get bored as much. If they want to be bored, it's a nice game to work on.
Now, the Call of Duty approach. I see. Well, I mean, you mentioned the fan expectations and trying to deliver for the fans there, but you've also got license holders to work with, and even just having the license doesn't guarantee you're going to sell lots of copies of a game. I know F1 in particular, as in the history of video games, has had its ups and downs. What have you found has been the sort of key element in getting licenses to work?
So it's what I said. First of all, I believe that you need to love the sport. And our development team and the marketing, everybody working on this product absolutely loves Formula One and know the sport inside out. And it's important because there's a lot of passion when creativity is around. And if you want to be able to innovate all the time, having that passion is very important. Then we've got a very close partnership and shared vision with our licensor. And that's, as I said earlier, Liberty Media came on board a few years ago, and they realized that game was more than just a way to make money as a license, but it's a marketing tool to enable them to engage a younger audience. And therefore, when they look at you as the licensee as not just a way to make money, but a partner in crime to grow the sport, it really makes the whole thing a lot easier. And on our side and on their side, we've got very ambitious people, and they've got this desire for greatness and make the game, both on the development and the marketing side, the best possible every time. And it's exciting every year to say, okay, how are we going to beat last year when we did 90% rating? What is it going to take? And that challenge is super exciting. And we've got a team that keeps on surprising us with the goodies they come up with.
One of the things that I've been keeping tabs on is and it's related to the F1 stuff and is your esports side, the investment in that. How has that been progressing? How's that business been going?
It's been flying. It has been growing steadily for the past 3 years, particularly on F1, when we first started it. But the lockdown has taken it to a completely new level with the F1 virtual Grand Prix and the actual F1 drivers and celebrity being involved and competing. So it benefited F1 by engaging their fans and bringing new ones during a time where real world races could just not take place. It was unbelievable, the awareness we got. It allowed the drivers to communicate with their audience in a fun and engaging way, which fans loved. They absolutely loved it. You could see on their Twitch or whenever they were streaming, how many fans and how much they were engaged. And of course, it benefited the game, which got huge visibility for it. It's a big part of the success of the game this year, I'm convinced. And the virtual Grand Prix series has been watched by 30 million viewers across TV and digital platform. That's a huge amount of people. So most people watch the content on Twitch, and I have an interesting stat. In 10 days of release, we've done more than we've done for the entire F1 19 campaign. And of course, a lot of that was due to the people having more time to play. Dirt Rally 2 was also a great success. It's evolved from its first event and season 2, now underway. And we've had less probably publicity on Dirt Rally 2 than we did on F1 because it's not as big a franchise, but it did very well for us as well. A lot of excitement. It was very helpful for the game. So it is important for us to continue esports. We see it as an engagement tool. We're not seeing it today as a P&L on its own as such, although it's starting to look like we're on the verge of turning into a profit as opposed to just spending money. So if we can have it as a great marketing tool to engage our consumers, and we can even monetize it going forward, it's a double whammy. It was a worthwhile investment. And one of the things that you get in racing is you actually get a sport where the game is so similar to the sport itself that you end up having the best e-gamers becoming racers. And that's not given to any other sports. The Brandon, who won the F1 esports tournament, is now working for Mercedes, and he's driving cars for a living. These are great stories. I think you could play many games and be involved in esports, but you can't always actually take part in the real sport like you do with racing. So it adds something more. And this is why all the racing companies have been so interested to even use esports as a way to recruit the next generation of drivers.
Yeah, I mean, I can play FIFA the game, but I don't think I'm going to be able to compete in the Premier League.
It would be a great, I guess the difference in racing is clearly you're not getting the G-force in your neck when you're driving in your seat at home. So, the physical condition clearly is super important for these guys. And it takes more than just being a skilled gamer, but it helps, and it just shows with what we've seen in the past that it's possible.
Wow, that's remarkable. Well, I mean, you mentioned there, like, you sort of you've not necessarily viewed it as a profitable thing, although it might be heading in that direction. If there are any developers like watching this and they're considering embarking on their own esports initiative, I mean, what advice would you give them? What should they do? What would you recommend?
So just before I answer this question, I do think that when I say it's not profitable, it is profitable, because just like when you do marketing, it's an investment, and it gives you back the money in revenue or more players. So it is, what I'm saying is, as a business, yet if you isolate just the P&L, maybe it's difficult to identify how much profitable it is. But to answer your question on what people should consider, I think people want to watch the best of the best. They want to see players do things they can't do themselves. And it's quite exciting to watch. This is why you're seeing so many people watching others play a game, because these guys get to a level that is so impressive that it's super entertaining and engaging. And we've seen it with the F1 Virtual Grand Prix. The talent was exceptional. And from a racing perspective, as I said earlier, we're seeing esports. We will, and are seeing esports driver make the move from actual racing to racing real games, and that's super exciting. As a young gamer, knowing that you can at some point drive super expensive car that are so difficult to access is exciting.
And so, I mean, I guess though, if studios sort of go into it looking into esports, I guess the way to treat it is a sort of way of sort of raising awareness. But I guess it doesn't work for everything, though, right? I mean, racing, it seems like an obvious fit. It's a sport already. But I guess but it can be. I imagine as well the investment in it needs to be quite high if you want to make a bit of a noise on it, and it's kind of up to the community as well to make it a success. I always think it seems like a very, I mean, it perhaps works for you, but it always seems like a very risky strategy for developers sort of building esports in as the plan from the start. It's not really a question, but it was.
I think that's a good point. I think, if you look at the successful esports games, in the last few years, the reality is the most successful esports series are usually because they're the most successful games to start with. So it's difficult to just think, oh, I'm going to create some great esport game if the game is not great to start with. So it starts with your product, with your content. And then if your game is great, it already attracts an audience. And then those who are really good at the game and can really show off what is possible to be doing, then you'll get a lot of people watching it. So you get an audience because the game is great. And then if people are great at it, it makes them engage. So I think you're right. Not everybody can do esports. Not every game can support it. But if you can, it's certainly a fantastic engagement tool, and it allows you to keep your consumers happy and playing your game as long as possible.
Although, I mean, I say not every game can do it. It might surprise you. I was just writing this week about the Farming Simulator Esports League, which seems to be going really well. So, I mean,
but Farming Simulator, I know we look at it like, oh, it's not real, but actually, Farming Simulator is doing very well. And if you enjoy this type of game, there's no reason why it couldn't be doing an esport. It's a good game in its genre.
Yeah,
it's just not an obvious genre where you're thinking the big monsters like League of Legends or of course. But there are people who like this game. There are a lot of people. And if you could get an audience and people playing it and it could be fun and engaging, there's no reason it couldn't work.
Wow, it seems to be working so far. Anyway, sorry, I wasn't supposed to deviate off into Farming Simulator, but your big release coming up is Dirt 5, which is one of the first big racing games for PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. We're sort of looking to a new generation now. What do those consoles sort of mean to Codemasters as a business?
Well, every time there's a new console launching, let alone two, it's a very exciting time in the industry. First of all, you get new technology, you get opportunity to, do new things, innovate. You get a huge amount of buzz, marketing spend. It's just a time where every time there is a new launch of console, there is a good chance for the market to grow. So that in itself is exciting. It's a boost for the overall industry, the opportunity to attract new players. For developers, as I said, you've got new technology, you can innovate. We know racing games perform very well on new console, and we're very excited to be at launch. I don't think there has been a single launch of a new platform, a new console without a racing game, and we're honored to be one of those. I'm not sure 100% that we're the only one at this stage, but we're certainly one of them that's been announced. And we are super excited about the game. You may be aware that we got the best racing game at Gamescom a few days ago. And we've just announced the Playgrounds feature, which we think is a real innovation, very exciting, and the feedback so far has been stupendous.
Yeah, racing games always they seem like the ideal product. They because the way they look, they're always a very good game to show, good genre to show off how nice a new machine can look, right? I mean,
there's very few. Well, I don't know of a console that's launched. There's many genres, and racing is, as you said, it's one of the best product to demonstrate the new technology.
What are you expecting? I mean, a lot of the time we move from generation to generation, we see sort of a surge in development costs and stuff like that. Are you expecting that sort of thing this time?
Absolutely. I think it'd be quite naive to think the costs are going to remain the same when you've got so much more power in those machines and much more to fill in. I mean, there's still going to be games that are going to be doing very well and don't have to be spending the millions. But when you make games like racing, where you want the best looking cars, when you want 60 frames per second, in fact, we're probably going to see 120 frames per second on next gen with Dirt 5. There's a lot that you have to build, and that costs money. But if you could build good games, they are making more and more money as well, because there's more consumers. They are selling for longer. Game as a service allow you to keep your consumer engaged and help you finance the next game coming. So we spend more, but I think the reward is more as well.
Well, I hope so. Well, it's not just coming to Xbox and PlayStation. I think it's coming to Stadia. Is that right as well?
We are absolutely, yeah, of course. It's Stadia. And we are looking at streaming platform as another opportunity for us going forward. It's an ideal type of game for streaming platforms.
Well, it's a disruptive.
We're in fact on the Stadia launch with Grid. We were there for launch, which was very exciting for us. In fact, it performed really well on Stadia. We're very happy with that.
Well, it's a disruptive time because you got the new consoles, we've got Stadia, we've got xCloud, we've got Game Pass and subscription services. I mean, it's always a disruptive time in games, really, but it feels particularly like it is one at the moment. What do you see as sort of the biggest opportunities in the games market today for studios such as yourself?
All of it. So, as you said, it's an amazing time to be in the industry, but I've been saying that for 25 years. It's just getting more and more exciting. I think the obvious thing now is the next gen console coming in hopefully in the next few months, later this year. It's exciting because we're attracting a wider audience. We can do more innovation. We have more opportunity to engage our consumers. And today, between streaming, PC, console, free-to-play, mobile, cross-play, there are so many opportunities ahead of us. At the end of the day, it's down to making a great product. It's always down to a great game, and try to bring as many opportunities for consumers to play that game on any platform from anywhere. And hopefully one day will be cross-play on everything, so that we've got full liquidity and everyone can play with each other regardless of which device they're using. So I'm excited in the short term about the launch of those new console and streaming, and but also I'm getting excited to see 5G coming along, and hopefully at some point the possibility that our great game, any great experience that we build, whether it's in racing or in other genre, can be accessed by anyone from anywhere, from any device, and they can play together. That would be the dream, and we're heading there. It's not if, it's when, and that's why it's so exciting. We're all working toward that goal. We want our IP or our games and our consumers to be able to enjoy it in any form they wish.
Wow, so it's interesting. So cross-play I didn't list that. That's the thing that you sort of see as potentially a bit of a game changer.
Look, it is, when you've got a big game and you have millions of customers on each platform, you're okay. But it can be frustrating if you want to play with your mate, one-to-one on a multiplayer. He hasn't got the same console as you, or he's on PC, and those games that are cross-play are gaining a lot of momentum. And I'm really hoping that we'll be able to get there at some point.
Well, I'm excited about that. I'm conscious of the time, Frank, and I'm aware that you've got important things to do. So I'm gonna call it to an end there. But thank you so much for your time. It was great speaking with you.
Yeah, pleasure. Thank you very much. Speak to you soon, and good luck for the rest of the show.
Thank you, Frank. Well, our next session is a live session with Sega, talking about its Searchlight initiative and its acquisition of 2 Point Studios, the team behind 2 Point Hospital. So check out live.gamesindustry.biz for that one, or go on our YouTube channel. It will go live at the top of the hour. Thank you again to Frank for speaking with us, and thank you all for listening. See you in a few moments.